Thank you so much for joining us for CBN NewsWatch. I'm Ephraim Graham. The question with Iran's nuclear program is to bomb or not to bomb. President Donald Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu discussed that at the White House. The president is trying talks with Iran and economic pressure, trying to avoid a military confrontation, but Israel is concerned whether those talks can work and if Iran can be trusted. And speaking of the economy, global trade tensions increasing as President Trump's latest tariffs go into effect, including the standoff between the United States and China. And with The Chosen Last Supper in theaters, we're going to bring you our Studio 5 conversation with the man behind the worldwide hit, Dallas Jenkins. We're talking about the latest chapter in the landmark series. All those stories and more right now on CBN NewsWatch.
This is CBN NewsWatch.
It is Wednesday, April 9th, a busy day. Let's begin with the top issue in the Middle East. Will Israel strike Iran's nuclear program, likely with the help of the United States, or can a military confrontation be avoided? Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and President Donald Trump both say Iran cannot be allowed to have a nuclear weapon. The question is how to prevent it. CBN Middle East Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell brings us the story. He's reporting from Jerusalem.
Netanyahu said he and the president discussed at length Iran's nuclear program and emphasized Israel's position that it be destroyed.
We agree that Iran will not have nuclear weapons. This can be done in an agreement, but only if this agreement is on the Libyan model, where you go in, blow up the facilities, dismantle all the equipment under American supervision and American execution.
The Libyan model refers to when Muammar Gaddafi agreed to dismantle his nuclear program in 2003. If Iran doesn't take that option, Netanyahu said that leaves military force.
The second option is that this won't happen, that they will just drag out the talks, and then the option is military. Everyone understands that. We discussed that at length.
Some believe Netanyahu and his team were taken by surprise when President Trump announced the U.S. planned direct talks with Iran, Israel's biggest enemy. The concern for many in Israel is that Iran may use the upcoming direct talks this Saturday to drag out negotiations and buy more time as it gets closer to the nuclear threshold. On Tuesday, the White House press secretary repeated the administration's warning that Iran must come to an agreement.
If they don't choose to move forward with diplomacy and a deal, which is the direction we do see them headed in, there will be grave consequences to pay.
Iran's foreign minister is warning that military action could drag the U.S. into another costly and drawn-out war in the region, but remains optimistic.
If the other side shows real intent, we believe a deal can definitely be struck. So, as the saying goes, the ball is in the U.S. court. If they show up in Amman with genuine willingness, we'll certainly reach a result.
President Trump's nominee as ambassador to Israel jumped into the fray. Former Arkansas Governor Mike Huckabee warned that Iran better take Trump seriously because, quote, he's not kidding around. Huckabee suggested economic pressure is better than bombing, explaining that in Trump's first term, he didn't bomb them, he bankrupted them, and that's a more effective strategy. Huckabee's nomination has been advanced to the full Senate, where it's awaiting a final confirmation vote.
For a closer look and more analysis, Chris Mitchell joins us now from Jerusalem. So, Chris, Mike Huckabee said President Trump's economic pressure on Iran in his first term was more effective than bombing. But has Iran made enough progress on its nuclear program that there's no longer enough time for economic pressure to work, and so a military strike may be necessary?
Well, that's what many people believe here in Israel, Ephraim, that the window for, closing up Iran's nuclear facility is closing. This might have worked 4 years ago. In fact, it did in many ways. It almost bankrupted Iran. But fast forward to today, the situation has really changed dramatically. So sanctions can slow down Iran, but they may not have enough time to stop it. And diplomacy alone, they argue here in Israel, it would just give Iran more time, something that Israel says it really can't afford to risk. And that's why the possibility of a preemptive military strike is back on the table. You know, just a few days ago, there was really a sense that there was going to be a united, joint U.S.-Israel attack. But now, after Trump has announced that they're going to have direct talks this coming Saturday, that possibility seems somewhat less likely. not because anybody doesn't want war, but they believe a military strike physically might be the only way to stop Iran from crossing the nuclear threshold. And here in Israel, it's not just about strategy. It's really about survival.
How close is Iran to actually having nuclear weapons? Does anybody really know?
The short answer, Ephraim, they're close, and probably safe to say they've never been this close. Some people do have a pretty good idea. For example, the International Atomic Energy Agency, the IAEA, has reported that Iran possesses about 275 kilograms. That's probably around 600 pounds of uranium that's been enriched to 60% purity. Now, what they need is they need to go to 90% purity. That's your military-grade uranium. So if you have about 600 pounds of this enriched uranium, you can get about 6 nuclear weapons. So that's what they do know. But they do not appear necessarily to have an operational nuclear warhead to go on to a ballistic missile. That's what they call a matter of weaponization. And some people here believe it could take less than a year. But, the thing about intelligence, Ephraim, that I've heard before, we don't know what we don't know. So there could be advances in weaponization, in putting a nuclear warhead on a ballistic missile that Iran and Western intelligence don't simply know. And actually, some believe Iran may already have a bomber ready. But so much is uncertain. That's why Israel wants to make sure a military strike would eliminate the threat of a nuclear Iran once and for all.
Naturally, President Trump wants to avoid a military strike. What are Israel's concerns when it comes to these upcoming talks with Iran?
Well, they're very concerned over here, deeply concerned. They're just thinking that these talks could play into Iran's hands, stall for time, while back behind the scenes developing a nuclear weapon. From Israel's perspective, time, Ephraim, really is the enemy. They're not publicly criticizing the talks, watching them very closely, but they're preparing for the possibility if diplomacy does fail, they may have to act on their own. And as Netanyahu has said over and over, Israel will not allow Iran to become a nuclear armed power. Not now, not ever.
Iran warns of the possibility of a long, drawn-out war in the Middle East, but does it have the capability of fighting back on any extended basis if there is an attack on its nuclear program?
Well, they tried twice last year, April 13th and October 1st. They sent hundreds of ballistic missiles, drones, UAVs, but they failed spectacularly. And their proxies right now, they're nothing like they were before October 7th. Hamas is almost destroyed. Same thing with Hezbollah. The Houthis right now are taking a pounding by a U.S. air campaign. Their conventional army is not any really serious threat to Israel. Their air force is outdated, and their economy is under strain. All those factors make it unlikely, it seems anyway, right now. But given that we don't know some things that Iran might have, that nobody actually knows, but it might not have the capability to really have a severe strike against Israel or the surrounding Arab neighbors.
Chris, let's talk about another hot spot in the Middle East. Is there a danger of a confrontation between Turkey and Israel in Syria?
Yeah, that's big, probably the biggest hotspot right now besides Iran right now. There seems to be time running out for Israel to hit critical Iranian targets inside Syria because Turkey is moving into northern and central Syria. Netanyahu says there's a shrinking window of opportunity, and the danger on the ground is that if Turkey becomes more entrenched inside Syria, it becomes very complicated for Israel to act. Turkey's a NATO country, and right now, so it seems like this is probably the next big hotspot here in the Middle East.
All right, Chris Mitchell reporting from Jerusalem. Thanks as always for your insights. Stay safe and know that we here are praying for you and our team there on the ground in Israel. Coming up, international trade concerns heating up as President Trump's latest round of tariffs goes into effect, with the tensions between the United States and China growing more intense. We're going to have that story for you when we come back. You are watching CBN NewsWatch. Welcome back to CBN NewsWatch. Trade tensions between the United States and China are escalating as President Trump's new tariffs are going into effect, sparking reaction here in the United States and internationally. China has promised to take strong countermeasures while markets and politicians brace for the economic fallout. George Thomas is on this story.
China says it will take resolute and forceful measures to counter the Trump administration's latest round of tariffs. The White House said the sweeping tariffs are designed to open negotiations with America's trading partners.
The president's message has been simple and consistent from the beginning. To countries around the world, bring us your best offers, and he will listen.
Stocks across Asia and Europe saw significant losses as the new round took effect. Wall Street continues to also take a hit, edging closer to bear market territory.
That doesn't occur every day and is a sign of distress in the market.
The nation's top trade representative faced the Senate's Finance Committee on Tuesday, where lawmakers from both sides expressed concern over the impact on America's 401ks.
He said the president's strategy is already bearing fruit. I can tell you for a lot of Oregonians who have 401ks that are being drained out, that's pretty rotten stuff.
Senator Thom Tillis, a Republican from North Carolina, questioned who in the administration would be held accountable if the tariffs fail and Americans suffer.
If you own this decision, then I'll look to you to figure out if we're going to be successful. If you don't own the decision, I'm just trying to figure out whose throat I get to choke if it's wrong.
Despite concerns, President Trump maintains that tariffs are achieving results, with nearly 70 countries lined up for negotiations.
I call them tailored deals, not off the rack. These are tailored, highly tailored deals. Right now, Japan is flying here to make a deal. South Korea is flying here to make a deal, and others are flying here.
However, as the trade war intensifies, Americans can expect to pay more for groceries, clothing, and household items in the near future.
We're not talking about months away or even quarters away. In some goods, automobiles could be one of those. You could be talking about weeks away.
Shoppers are already starting to stockpile goods.
Consumers are uncertain, just like the business environment is right now. So they're uncertain about where prices are going to move, and so they'd rather buy goods and services at the prices that they can see now, rather than the unknown prices that could happen in the future.
As trade tensions rise, the true impact of these tariffs will become clearer in the coming weeks. George Thomas, CBN News.
And to help us make sense of it all right now, our CBN News financial editor, Drew Money Parkhill, is here to help us break it all down. So now we're hearing a lot of warnings that tariffs are inflationary. What could be their impact?
Just so the audience knows, my middle name is not really Money.
I know.
That's just Ephraim's nickname for me, folks.
Yes.
Okay. There's a lot of hysteria around this, and you would think from the way some people are, shrieking that we're going back to the bad old days of 2022 and the late 70s and early 80s when inflation was double digits. No, I've seen two different estimates now, and they're estimating this would add like 1.5 to a little under 2% to the overall inflation rate. So we're not looking at the end of the world here. What it would affect, Ephraim, is certain products more so than others. Maybe a new car, depending on which brand you buy. Maybe things like coffee or bananas or something that we can't produce much in the U.S. So that's what it would affect. The overall inflation rate's not going to jump way up. It would go up, but we don't know yet. We heard President Trump talking about trying to make deals. So everything right now is guesswork.
Indeed.
But we're not looking at like double-digit inflation starting next week or anything like that.
So now there's also concern about a recession. How likely is that?
You got a coin to flip because it's all guesswork again. The economy had started to slow down late last year already, so there is a possibility that your average person doesn't know the difference between a slowdown and a recession. Life goes on. They're more concerned about inflation, actually, because that affects everybody. But there's maybe a 50-50 chance. I see some of the big Wall Street houses saying, well, 35, maybe 45 or 50% chance. Nobody really knows because, again, we don't know how these tariffs are going to work out. So we'll have to see. But there is a chance, but it would not be a long-term serious problem, I don't think.
So now, of course, inflation and recession are the immediate worries for the short term. What about the longer term?
Longer term, this is all going to shake out. Because the main thing is China, and a lot of these tariffs, you don't hear much about this, but they're really aimed at China because we're very dependent on them. There's a lot of concern that, if we get into a war, what are we going to be able to manufacture and produce, or we have another pandemic and so forth. So short term, yeah, these concerns are real. Longer term, this is all going to be worked out. Trump will do deals. Other countries will do deals. Things are going to change. This is a huge change, but I expect the stock market to start. We've probably bottomed. We're going to see a lot of bouncing around, but we're going to be going much, much, much higher in the years ahead.
All right. Good to know. Good to know. Calm some fears. Much appreciated. We appreciate it for sure. Still ahead, we're going to switch to the world of the Bible and entertainment. The Chosen Last Supper is now in theaters. We're going to bring you our Studio 5 conversation with the man behind this incredibly popular hit series. Dallas Jenkins has the story with us right after this. Welcome back to CBN NewsWatch. The Chosen Last Supper is in theaters right now. It's season 5 with 2 more to go. And we spoke with Dallas Jenkins, the mastermind behind this wildly popular worldwide hit. Take a look.
Listen carefully, because I'm going to tell you what is about to happen.
With every season, it gets bigger and bigger. How do you handle that as it continues to grow?
It's still the same process. I'm still a guy on a couch with my laptop with my co-writers writing the season. When we're on set, it's a group of artists and friends who are trying as best we can to capture authentically the story of Jesus. But ultimately, and I think you'll see this when you watch the episodes, no matter how big the story gets and the backdrop gets, it's still about the intimacy.
Did you have any idea what that was? Never seen him do anything like that.
Ultimately, I'm like, no matter how big this scene is, even the turning of the tables in the temple, our biggest, most dramatic scene we've done, I've still got to be checking in on the people involved. Where are they at in their journey? What are they thinking? How does this affect their relationship? How does this affect their friendship? How does this affect their understanding of who Jesus is?
I think we should be very clear about something. He did not strike any person or animal in the market.
Are you crazy?
But this particular season was meant for the big screen, correct?
Oh, yeah. Well, visually speaking, if there's ever a season that you need to see on the big screen, it's this one.
The hour is coming.
We got the turning over the tables of the temple. We got the triumphal entry. We got the Last Supper. We got the betrayal of Judas. These are big things, big themes. It demands to be seen and heard in a room with other people who are going to laugh and cry together. And already the people who've seen these first couple episodes are like, oh, wow, this is big. This is epic.
Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees! Stop this at once! The world is changing, and Jesus offers a vision to redeem it.
We are, of course, approaching crucifixion, resurrection. What are your conversations right now like with Jonathan Rumi, who plays Jesus?
We want to be pointing people to Jesus in this time, but at the same time, we have to find the humanity of it, the relationships of it, the authenticity of it. And so we're just working through what we always do, which is, all right, I, Jonathan, am not God. How do I find the divinity in this, even though I'm not God? But more importantly, how do I find the humanity in this of the man that I worship?
I'd like to be alone as I take it in. I'll come back to the house after dark. I just need a moment.
If you had to quickly summarize this season, how would you do that?
I would say intensity for sure. This is the most intense season we've ever had. But there's also, we get to kick a little butt this season. Season 4 was pretty sad. Season 6 is going to be the most devastating, obviously, season we've ever done. Season 5, it is a cornucopia of emotions. And I think this reflects the totality of who God is, which I think is really cool. I think sometimes we put him in a specific box. He's the kind, gentle, maybe hippie Jesus, or he's the law and order justice Jesus. He's all of those things in this season. I think that's really exciting to explore.
Have you seen his hand at work through you as you're doing this day in and day out?
Oh, 100%. Ephraim, I'm not this good. I'm not capable of doing a show that's had this much impact around the world. So that's really easy. The very fact that we're talking about season 5 is evidence that God's hand has been in this, because I'm just not good enough to get us this far, certainly not on my own. And so it's very, very humbling. Our egos get smaller the bigger this show gets.
And now look back at me and cut.
Part 2 of The Chosen is in theaters now. Part 3 is coming to the big screen on Friday. Now, in other entertainment news, The Unbreakable Boy is now available through video on demand. The film is inspired by one father's true story. Scott Lorette struggles to find strength when his long-awaited son is born with a debilitating diagnosis. He has autism and a rare bone disease, but his son helps to heal those struggling around him. Again, The Unbreakable Boy is available on digital platforms. Be sure to join us this evening for an all-new edition of Studio 5. We're sitting down with Kirk Cameron. The actor and author is now the creator of a children's program, Iggy and Mr. Kirk, when I talk to him about the show. Plus, get a first look at the film Journey to You. You can watch the all-new episode of Studio 5 on the CBN News Channel at 8 Eastern. You can also watch it on the CBN News app, or you can find it on YouTube. Stay with us. We're coming back with an encouraging word for your Wednesday. We'll be right back.
Introducing a brand new way to start your morning. Get your daily quick start from CBN News. A quick read on the important news of the day delivered right to your inbox. Stay current on breaking news, politics, and entertainment. Discover how God is moving around the world and here at home. Plus, get exclusive stories and daily scripture encouragement just for you. Stay informed. Go to quickstart.news and subscribe today.
Welcome back to CBN NewsWatch. Time now for your Wednesday word, and today's word is joy. It is so much more than happiness. Remember this, happiness often depends on what's happening. Put your faith and hope in the joy of the Lord. It is your strength, and it is sustaining, even when what's happening isn't all that happy. Well, that will do it for this edition of CBN NewsWatch. You can always find more of our news programs on the CBN News Channel. You can find them there at any time, as well as online, cbnnews.com. Take a moment and let us know what you think about the stories you've seen here today. You can email us, newswatch@cbn.com. You can also reach out and touch us on Facebook, Instagram, and X. We'll see you back here tomorrow.